Can you get something out of the vending machine? What would you get anyways?
I will get my steps in. Yeah. Good to see you. You too, man. All right, have fun, Mason. Hey.
All right, good to see you too. Emma, can you carry my drink, please? Just want to make sure. No. I'm co-hosting a webinar for my work right now. I have no idea. Oh, I think like 60 or 90 or something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love it. Right?
Come on, Josie.
Oh, I thought you were right up there.
Lydia's practices tomorrow.
Mhm.
Oh, yes, you know,
Mhm.
I got practice
Okay.
Saturday.
Mhm. Grab the door. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We're gonna go on the sidewalk. Yeah. We gotta eat the rest of it. Mhm.
I said it was only because it was.
Mhm.
He's not like Mexican food.
Mhm.
I told him.
Okay, come this way. Stay with me.
Last Mexican
Mhm.
place, so. Sorry.
Mhm.
I'm really tired.
Okay. Don't forget you have to pick out your clothes for tomorrow tonight. And showering.
I saw Mason J. Oaks Smith. I saw a lot of guys from school. Saw Llewellyn, Hatcher, Lila. I also saw Lila, Hatcher, and Smith's sister. The Llewellyn. Jinx. Can't talk. I'm saying this is her name.
so many landmines for them to squash us. Okay? An employee and their supervisor who files reports, the applicants are considered beneficial owners, right? What happens if they change
sushi,
their
especially the fried
address?
sushi?
What happens
That was
if someone,
incredible. What do they
if
put
someone
around
is
it?
married and
Cookie dough?
changes the last name, puts a
Yes,
hyphen?
So
it
good.
was delicious.
That info has to be
I love
updated with
that
FinCEN.
I'm so glad.
Okay? What if they forget to tell you?
It was this one kid who.
What if they don't
every
even
time I
think
made a
about it,
shot,
right?
He slapped it.
You're now non-compliant. You are now non-compliant, and you, as a business owner, are legally responsible.
Slap my ball to the side.
So remember that.
Most of the time, I just
Anybody
got it before
who's considered a
he could, or
beneficial
I just
owner,
missed the slap.
if that person doesn't update
Weird.
you,
I told him to
you're
stop,
going to
but
be the
he
one they're
killed
going to
times.
whack.
He's like,
Okay? You'll pay the fine.
no.
You'll be the one facing bank and asset procedures, or seizures or prison time.
He wasn't.
Do you see what's happening here? This is what I tell people who tell me, the Pollyannas out there that think they do everything right. The system itself is rigged to guarantee people will make money as a best case scenario, or they'll seize everything we own and imprison us as a worst case scenario. And in the meantime, we have banks, accountants, financial advisors, title companies. Everybody's gonna be looking over our shoulders to turn us in for odd or suspicious activities. They can't explain,
Yeah.
right? Even for something as innocent as paying cash for something like a house, a car, a motorcycle, whatever. That's pretty bleak and pretty damn scary. And that's why I'm on social media, YouTube. That's why I'm spreading the word and telling people, hey, you got to know what's coming. Because no one out, I don't think anyone else out there except me is doing this. I find that to be a travesty. Okay. But this is just the start. I'm going to give an example of what could definitely happen, because they're setting the mechanism up for this to happen.
Why is the Canada?
All right. So in Canada, they have a similar law. And if you remember, you may have followed it, you may not have, but in 2022, there was a bunch of truckers that were protesting against proposed anti-COVID mandates. And so they drove to Ottawa, they blockaded streets, they were honking their horns and so on and so forth in protest. Well, the Canadian government got tired of it. They said it was disrupting public order. So they decided to come up with a unique solution to squash the protest. And this is from the press. I got this from the internet. The banks started freezing their accounts of anyone linked to the protest. And this is a quote from the article. Financial institutions have started freezing accounts and canceling credit cards in accordance with the Emergencies Act. The powers granted by the act will allow banks to target the accounts of people who have donated to crowdfunding platforms that have fueled the ongoing protests. And the Canadian banks have begun freezing the accounts of people linked to the trucker protest in Canada. And the federal government was promising to take more accounts offline in the coming days until the demonstrators gave up. Well, of course, the government won, and the protests were squashed. They drained the oxygen out of that movement. Whether you agree with the protest or not, the fact that they did this, they used those tactics, is scary. And you've seen how the feds have weaponized the banks. They've got them compromised, co-opted. So they have broad powers, and they can act in a similar manner. And look what it's already done. Nobody knows about this, but they've singled out a group in our country, the supposedly free democracy, singled them out to closely monitor and to squash. And I find it very interesting. They targeted the one group in our society that has decided to build something for themselves, that refuse to be corporate serfs or drones or robots. We cherish our freedom. There's a reason why we go off on our own to be entrepreneurs. We want to control our own destiny. We aren't sheep, but we're the ones that are going to be squashed because the government doesn't want docile sheep. Okay? Take a quick break here. There's a lot to take in. So I have a question for you. This has been a long slog, and I understand that. And for a lot of you people, you probably, if you haven't heard of this yet, you're probably shocked. I was too when I first really started understanding how this is going to work. So I have a question for you, and it's probably the most important question you're going to hear in this webinar. Why in the world would you voluntarily comply with this outrageous law if there was a legal way to avoid it? What if I told you there was a loophole? Our clients already run their businesses, protect their assets, protect their anonymity, get major tax reductions, shield their assets from lawsuits. But guess what else they get?
Or you play barefoot.
They're also protected from having to comply with the Corporate Transparency
Her
Act.
babysitter.
We have a 100% legal structure and strategy that exempts you from complying with the Corporate Transparency Act. So imagine, after we've gone through this whole thing about what's coming and all this scrutiny and landmines they're planning to catch us, imagine operating your businesses without having to do that. Imagine not having to risk insolvency or prison for someone else's oversight and reporting, right? Imagine not being on the radar at all, except for filing a tax return every year. Are you ready to learn how? I think you are. So I'm going to tell you. So before I get into that, let's review quickly what corporate entities are required to register. Remember, I said LLCs, S corps, C corps, LLPs, LLPs, and some trusts that are required to register with the Secretary of State of any state. We're going to come back here to this flow chart. Remember, if it's a corporation, yes. If it's a limited liability, yes. You have to report. And this is the key. This is the key phrase. Was the company created by the filing of a document with a Secretary of State or any similar office under law of a state or Indian tribe? Yes, it has to be reported. They have to report. But look at the bottom thing. If it was not created by the filing of a document with the Secretary of State or similar office of a state, it's not a reporting company. Okay? Now, I heard about Occam's razor the first time when I watched that movie Contact with Jodie Foster, and it was interesting. It's not quite the same context.
Okay, go inside.
In essence, it is, in a sense that usually the simplest solution is the best. And I live by keep it simple, stupid. So if you're running your business right now inside an C Corp or an S Corp or an LLC, which of course we know that they're required to register with the Corporate Transparency Act, but you don't want to register with the CTA, then the simplest solution is just run your business inside an entity that is not required to register. Switch it out. Switch out your C Corp, switch out your S Corp, switch out your LLC with an entity that is exempt. Okay? As a quick example, let's say that suddenly the government decided that a leather jacket, if you wore a leather jacket, that meant you had to register with CTA. So you could have a choice, right? You could go with paying the higher taxes, getting squeezed by the government, having the specter of all those fines, possible imprisonment, surveillance out the yin yang. But you'd still be able to keep your leather jacket, so I guess that's cool. Or just wear a freaking different kind of jacket, right? That's all we're talking about. Like I said, the graphic, I just told you, if the company was created, had to register with the Secretary of State, then it is not a reporting company and it is exempt. Our contract law, business trust, and personal contract law, personal law trust are not required to register with any Secretary of State of any state. And you can run your business exactly, and I mean exactly as you do now. If you're running a business, an LLC, you can run it exactly the same way with our contract law business trust, okay? The only difference is that our contract law business trusts are exempt from complying with the CTA. They have a spin-through provision, which means that your business income is as close to 100% protected from lawsuits as you can get in this country. You can have unlimited bank accounts, but only one EIN number and one tax return filed. The business trust is considered a pass-through entity. So once you've gone through, you've generated your revenue, you've paid your expenses, taken your deductions, whatever is left that is net income can pass down to whoever you want. It can go to you personally. I've had an S Corp for 21 years. This is exactly how you run an S Corp. So your net income can go down to you personally via K-1 distribution, and that income is reported to you on your personal tax return, or it can be passed down to your personal contract law trust. Okay. Or it can go down to a charitable law, contract law, charitable trust, whichever one you decide. Okay. And they all are protected from lawsuit. And you get a lot of, your anonymity is unparalleled. And, you're going to pay less in tax just by doing that alone. And so you don't have to get anything else but an EIN number. That's it. It's not required to register in any state. My S corp, if you go on sunbiz.org in Florida, where I'm located, you can find my company and all its information just like that. You can't find my trust because it's not required to register by law. No FinCEN number, which is coming. I didn't get into that very much, but it's coming too. So in summary, this is what you get. You get freedom and exemption from the Corporate Transparency Act. You get as much anonymity as possible with this. You get as much lawsuit privacy protection as you can get in this country for both your income streams and your assets. So after listening to this, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked earlier a couple times. Why in the world would you voluntarily comply with the Corporate Transparency Act if there was a legal way to avoid it? So I'm going to go back to the banks here real quick. I told you about what's going on with the banks and about what they're doing, how they're looking for everything. They're scrutinizing every transaction, especially cash. So I had a conversation with a bank manager at Bank of America recently. Now, I'll tell you the story real quick. So I have 4 income streams through my business trust. I was setting up 3 more. So we were there for about maybe 45 minutes to an hour. So I was just chit-chatting with her, and I was trying to pump her for information about, how this is all working and so forth. And the key question I asked, I said, so you've got my bank account listed as a, blah, blah, irrevocable trust. And I said, is that a way for you to determine that this is an exempt company, that it's not under the Corporate Transparency Act? And she said, yep, 100%. So I said, if you don't mind me asking, I said, does this mean that it's not going to be scrutinized like the other accounts that are not exempt? She says, yeah. No one's going to look at those. What's the point? I said, so they're focusing pretty much just on the companies that are inside the Corporate Transparency Act. She said, yes, that's where all the attention's going. Interesting, huh? Geez, getting a business trust, contract law business trust, like we're talking about now. I mean, it's worth it just for that, right? To not have every single transaction scrutinized by some dumbass teller, or doesn't know anything about what you're doing with your business, and that person is deciding whether it's economically feasible or business feasible or whatever, or suspicious, right? And not having the accountants be under the gun. Our accountants don't do that. Our accountants that do the tax returns for our trust, they're not obligated to rat us out because we are exempt from the law. Okay, so I'm not exaggerating. We have 6 weeks approximately until 2024. So the time to act is now. We're being swamped with people who are taking action in preparation for what's coming. I want to help as many of you as possible to protect yourself from the ravages of the Corporate Transparency Act. So full disclosure, I work with my partners in Houston. It's a law firm. They've been around since the 1950s, creating these contract law trusts. And, if you want to protect yourself from the CTA by the end of the year, you better move quickly. Okay. So my personal, I'm pleading with you, okay? Don't just meekly accept what's coming. Don't be a sheep, okay? You have choices. It may require you to make some hard, choice about as far as, what you're investing in, but that's, whatever. Everything's, it's worth doing whatever it takes to make sure that you are prepared when this hits. Okay, so take action now before the law takes effect. Protect yourself and protect your business. And I wanted to tell you, thank you very much for coming on. There's a lot of people here tonight. I appreciate you coming down. I appreciate your willingness to be educated and to find out, because forewarned is forearmed. And now we're going to I'm going to stop my share and we can talk about any questions. We have 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you look down here on your screen, down here where it says share screen and where it says reactions, if you click on that, you can see a raised hand. You can play chime for raised hands or whatever, or you can just, so please, if you have any questions, like Lynette, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a couple probably easy ones.
Okay.
What about non-U.S. citizens who have businesses set up in the U.S.?
They have to report.
They will have to do it as well. So how will they be kept in compliance? I mean, basically, they would just be fine.
They had to provide their passport number, your whatever your residential address is in the country of origin, right? You have to provide them with that. And if anybody else, what's going to kill us is their definition of beneficial ownership, right? Like I told you. So there's going to be more and more. There's more people out there than just you that are, as far as they're concerned, own your business. So you got to keep track of them as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know, will there be fees for reporting updated information?
No, they're not going to, there's no fees involved in that. I mean, reporting the information is free. They don't charge for it, but they're going to get you on the $500 daily fine if it's not done 100% correctly all the time.
Okay. And then any businesses that are operating this year, as long as they're closed out before that effective date in January 1st, they aren't going to go under scrutiny, correct?
Well, they're giving existing businesses until 2025 to register. But our attorneys have said that to be safe, it is the best policy is to set up a business trust this year and then get your bank account open and then close down your existing bank account if it's possible. And it's not always possible for people. I get that. But if it's possible, don't run any income through your existing company's bank account as of January 1st, run it all through their business trust, and then do your last year's tax return and then dissolve it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
iPad, you. No problem. iPad Pro 12. You have your hand up. Don't know who that is.
Yeah, hello. It's me, it's Steve. I wanted to ask, I already knew what you were going to say because I've come across this. They're not talking about the Corporate Transparency Act, but I already knew what you were going to talk about. So my question is, how do we get the information on the costs of the trust and the particulars of how much help we get with running it and all that kind of